Choosing not to have children is a deeply personal decision, one that is often overlooked in conversations about fertility, family, and womanhood. While so many narratives focus on the desire to conceive, there are equally powerful stories of people who decide to take a different path. For some, the choice to remain childless comes after years of trying. For others, it's an intentional step toward a life that aligns more closely with their values, goals, or sense of peace. There's no one size fits all journey to fulfillment. And in a culture that often equates womanhood with motherhood, choosing to be childless can feel both liberating and at times misunderstood. Today, we're opening up space for that conversation about identity, expectations, and what it means to define life on your own terms. Welcome back to Fertility Café. I'm your host, Eloise Drane. The journey to parenthood, or away from it, is rarely simple. It's filled with questions about possibility, purpose, and sometimes acceptance. And for some, that journey includes deciding that having children isn't part of their story, and that wholeness can still be found even when the path looks different than expected. Welcome to the Fertility Cafe, where we explore the beautiful complexity of modern family building. I'm your host, Eloise Drane, and this is a space for honest conversations about surrogacy, egg donation, and the journey to parenthood. With expert insights and real stories, we're here to guide you through the medical, legal, and emotional aspects of third party family building. We believe that love has no limits, and neither should parenthood. If you've been with us for a while, you might remember episode 34, where I spoke with Chiquita Lockley about her powerful documentary, Eggs Over Easy: Black Women and Fertility. That episode focused on advocacy, education, and the unique reproductive health challenges Black women face. Today, Shaquita returns, not just as a filmmaker and advocate, but as someone who's lived through her own fertility exploration and ultimately made the decision to live childless by choice. Her story is nuanced, deeply personal, and a needed counter narrative to the idea that motherhood is only the path to fulfillment. So let's get into it. All right, Shaquita, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure chit-chatting with you.
So obviously last time you were on the show, we talked all about Eggs Over Easy and what you uncovered about Black women's experience with fertility, reproductive care, and kind of the pressure to build families a certain way. However, this time I wanted to talk about your own personal story about parenthood and something that's often what we don't hear enough about and what that journey has looked like for you.
Well, dive in. I'm ready.
Okay. You did this whole documentary for women and fertility and all of the things about having children or not having children or experiencing infertility. And then you are childless yourself.
I'm child free. I'm child
Child
free
free.
now by choice. Yeah.
Correction.
So childless for women who actually wanted children and always knew they wanted children and they feel like something is missing is childless. They use the term childless. For women who are people who are child free, like just the weight of always wanting a child, it's not there. So instead of feeling like we're missing something, we're just living life freely without children. So that's the difference. And when I started the documentary, I didn't know that. So I was saying childless, and then someone pulled me aside and said that that was an offensive term to women who are child free. And I didn't know the difference.
Me either.
So yeah, it's a thing. So I'm in the child free category, and women who either could not have children or wanted them and it just didn't work out for them, they feel like they are childless because they are missing a child.
Obviously, you didn't know it when you did the documentary. Remind me again, because that you had worked on that documentary for years.
For 1,000 years. So my research started in 2015 and my principal photography shooting started in 2017. You were my first interview, my first guest.
Was I
But yeah,
really?
you were my
Oh
first
my
interview.
gosh. Well, okay.
We've come a long way. We've been
Long
together a
way,
long
long
time. So it's been 10 years since I started the research and then 8 years since we started filming.
when in that process, when in those specific moments, conversations, experiences, or whatever, did your perspective shift?
I want to think this was probably like 2018 or 19. I already started filming, doing the interviews for Eggs Over Easy. And my auntie, Aunt Linda, she pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I think you should consider 60-year-old you." Well, 60-year-old you, like you're fine now and you're vacationing and living your best life. Will 60-year-old you be okay with your decision to not have children? And let me say, it wasn't like, oh, I never wanted kids. But by the time I hit 34, I wasn't married. I didn't want to be a parent by myself because my mother's a single mom. And it was very hard. And I'd always said, I would never do that. Like, we made it out alive, but it was tough. So that's not something that I wanted to do for my personal journey. Although, kudos to those if that's the choice that they make. It just wasn't for me. So at 34, when I wasn't married, and I was like desperate, like, oh my God, I have to get married. First of all, I went to Spelman and Morehouse is across the street. So it's already kind of ingrained, like, you're probably going to get married. So my thoughts were, okay, by 25, I'll be married and we'll, move through this, have kids, get the house, the picket fence and all the things, minus the dog because of my allergies. But all these things, like, I had it to the point of, okay, no pets because of allergies. Like, this was the picture that I had in my mind. And then by the time I reached 34, I was not in a relationship, no marriage in sight. I had a very difficult mid-30s. I was like so pressed. I would date people I wasn't compatible with, not making good decisions because the end goal was like, okay, well, I got to get married so I can have kids. Once I decided that might not be happening for me, I let it go. And when I say let it go, I mean, I did not think about it. I lived my best single girl life, made the most of it. If I'm going to be here, I might as well find some joy. And so that's what I did. Fast forward about a decade later, when Aunt Linda asked me, what would my 60-year-old self think? Would my 60-year-old self be happy with these decisions? That was the first time, like, as an adult, that I paused to say, is this really what I want to do? Or have I just said, okay, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to worry about it. So I thought about it and I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Fast forward about maybe 1 or 2 more years. It was 2020 when COVID hit. Well, 2019, I found out I had very big fibroids and that I might not be able to have children if I wanted to because of where they were placed. And that freaked me out. So, and Linda had just had this, oh, when you're 60 conversation. And then my gynecologist was like, you need to buckle down and figure out what you want to do. If I had the ablation, it was going to cause some scar tissue inside it. That could make it impossible to have kids. Did I want to do that? Which would have been like probably the easiest path. And that was when the rubber hit the road. And I had to say, like, oh my God, do I really not want to have children? Or have I just been like chilling because I'm not married and I don't have a situation that I would want to bring a life into? Like, is this what I want to do? And so I paused and I think I had like a small emotional breakdown. Like, what in the world? Knowing that I could have kids, even if I didn't want them, that was always in the back of my head. Well, if I ever want to, I can. Hearing, okay, if we do this procedure, that might take away your ability to have kids. That was a different lens that I'd not had to deal with before, because that made it, if you want to, you cannot. And now you got to find some other things. Like, you have to find another path if this is what you want to do. So I sat and thought about it, and I really am okay without having children. And I think that's because I'm a godmother to a couple of kids, and I'm very serious. I take my godmotherly duties very seriously. I don't miss birthdays. I don't miss recitals. And I've been doing that for 20 something years. The last person who asked me to be a godmother like 5 years ago, I had to decline because I'm tired. I couldn't start another generation of that. It's only so many recitals and soccer games and things you can go to. I'm at capacity. So I've taken that seriously. The girls I mentor, I've taken that seriously. And when I looked at the milestones that I knew would be important to me, like being mother of the bride and taking them to see Spelman to see if they want to go to school, or pledging my sorority, God has been generous, very generous in my life with me. And I've had mentees or nieces, I call them my nieces, who I've been able to show up in that capacity for all of them. I've been the mother of the bride. I've taken a niece to Spelman to see if she wanted to go there. I've had one pledged through my sorority, and I got to like be there and be a part of it. I had one graduate Spelman, and we have some specific things that happen when you graduate. Like, you get to go traditional things. You walk through the arch. It's a whole week of things. And I got to do that with one of my mentees. Because of how my life has always had children, these aren't kids that popped up when they they were in college. They popped up when they were 8 years old. Or my godkids, they came out the womb. I have children in my family. I just had one of them last weekend. She spent the week with me going into her senior year, wanted to come to the big city. So I think because of that, it filled my cup for nurturing. So when I say I'm good without having biological children, I really mean it. But it took the rubber hitting the road for me to have that conversation, because I don't think it's a conversation we often want to have with ourselves, especially like if you check all the things off the checklist. You went to school, you got the degree, you got the job, you did all these things. Tracy Ellis Ross says it beautifully, but she's saying I did all these things, but if you don't check off motherhood in our culture and in our community, you have done nothing, because you didn't fulfill the one thing you were here for. I wasn't that moved by other people having that conversation. Like after my mid-30s, my family stopped asking me at Christmas about it. Stop asking me about it. I wasn't polite when they asked. My answer was never polite. So the outside world, they may have had questions, or people would say stuff like, oh, we need more little yous. Like, we need more of the good people in this world to have more good people in this world. Well, maybe my assignment in this world is to just help some of the people y'all put here already
To become good, then.
to be the good people. But it
Mhm.
was a tough conversation for sure, not with folk outside of myself, but with myself once I realized, oh, I'm going to have this talk.
Did it take you, though, a long time to make peace with making that decision?
It wasn't a straight line. It would come and go.
Right.
So with the whole fibroid thing, my doctor was able to do a surgery that she did an open myomectomy, and she was able to leave no scar tissue inside my uterus. So when I come out, I went into that surgery like I might have to have a hysterectomy, because I did sign off that if I needed it, if it was life or death, I would like to live, take the uterus and everything connected to it,
Mhm.
take it out. So I went in thinking that I would have 0% chance if I wanted to. I don't know if I was struggling. So it was COVID. So everything was crazy. I was at the hospital by myself. Nobody could come. Like my mother and aunt dropped me off. My mother came in for anesthesia, but they made her leave. And I was there for all those days by myself in the hospital with nobody could visit. I had a major surgery because I was on the floor with the heart attack people, because that's how the hospital, they had too many people and they put me, like I could hear people coding. So some of that was just environmental, like just where I was. But some of it was that I went into surgery not knowing, just assuming I wouldn't be able to have kids and trying to come to peace with that. And when I came out, my gynecologist was like, oh, your uterus is perfect. Now, if you want to do something, you need to go ahead and do it. So then I was like back in the game. And so I had to make a decision because I knew the clock was ticking. I had already finished most of Eggs Over Easy. I think we were almost done. The only thing left was like the part we added with Keisha during COVID. I knew tons of information, and I knew that that was a slim window, that if I wanted to have children, and they put my uterus back together and everything was fine on the inside, because my fibroids ended up being mostly on the outside. So there was no scar tissue. If I wanted to, I could. And I sat there in that hospital and I would go back and forth. Am I going to be mad at 60 that I didn't move and have kids, like move forward and have kids? How am I going to feel about it? Am I really okay? Like, I know I'm okay at this level. On a high level, I'm good. But am I okay? Is my soul okay with this decision? So when I came out, it was on my mind. It wasn't an emergency because I had this small window. By 2022, I had decided definitely that I was okay with this decision. So it wasn't a, yes, I'm okay today. It was like a process, because I had a decade where I was strictly like, I'm child free, living my best life, gonna just be here for the kids in my life, and I'm okay with it. But now my lens had shifted a little bit, because that option could have easily been taken away. And I knew that right after that, I would be going into menopause. So it wasn't like this long extended window. So 2022, I was on the beach and I said, okay, I think I'm good. And I've been good ever since then. But that was like a 2-year process of knowing I could, after thinking I couldn't have kids or might possibly not be able to. That fear shook me. So knowing like, okay, I can, but I need to do something immediately. I talked with a couple of my close line sisters, and the facts for me didn't change. I don't want to be a single mother. Every time I would get the flu, because once a long time ago, I was going to adopt. I was 25. I was going to adopt at 25. And one of my friends said, well, well, you're by yourself. So what happens when you get the flu? And that is why I paused, because like, who was going to help? I didn't have a village here. Like, what are the logistics of parenthood if you are single? For me, that would have meant like I would either have to move my entire life back home to my family, or I wouldn't be able to do it because none of my friends live close by me, not close enough to come take a kid to school. So I revisited that in 2022. Nothing has really changed. The reasons that I didn't adopt when I was 25 had not changed from 2020 to 2022 when I was thinking about it. And every time I would get the flu, I would be reminded there is nobody here to take a toddler to school. There was nobody here to change a diaper for me. There's nobody here. And I have people in my life who love me. They would probably drive from an hour away to change a diaper, but it's not realistic. Nothing had changed. I don't want to do this by myself. And I still don't want to do this by myself. And I know that when I'm 60, I'm still not going to want to do it by myself. I made peace with it. I give all the love I can to all the kids in my life, like live with me for extended periods of time. And that is enough. I look online and they always have the arguments in Instagram, like in the comments, where they're like, well, if you don't want to have kids now, it's because you're selfish. And when you're old, they're going to put you in a nursing home. I would have to put myself in a nursing home. But there are many people with kids who the most loving thing they can do is put their parent in a nursing home because they're not equipped to take care of them anyway. So if that is the reason we're procreating, is so that you'll have a way, like a path to not go into a nursing home, we're already doomed as a society, especially when some of the most compassionate care you can give is by putting them in a space with people who know how to turn them over so they're not getting bed sores. My thoughts on it just evolved. I don't know if they evolved or if they just expanded. They just expanded, because this is always at the core what my belief has been. But once I was like older and really looking at it, no, I have not changed my mind. I haven't changed my mind at all.
Did you go through a grieving process?
The mid-30s, absolutely, because that was when I was all or nothing and I just let it go. Part of that grief, and when I look back on it, I can see it more clearly. I had to be in other countries. Like, I couldn't breathe here. But no matter where you go, you're running from yourself, but yourself is still there. If there was like an extended grieving process, it was all of my mid-30s. Take a big 4-year chunk out, because I just couldn't believe. Normally I achieve the stuff that's on my list. I'm going to have the highest grades because I work hard, and that's on my list. Ever since like first grade, I have been that way. So there hadn't been anything on my list from childhood that I didn't accomplish. And so coming to terms with that was difficult. It was very, very, very difficult. Trying to decide, well, this is what the world or society says success looks like. Is this really what I think, or is this what I think I should think? Do I really feel like that? Because I have an aunt who's quite successful, Aunt Linda, the one who asked me how would I feel at 60. Her only life regret is that she didn't have a child, a biological child. And that was why she was asking me those questions, to make sure I was making the right decisions that would serve me. But I look at her and she's like the most successful person in my family. So when I came back, like, am I trying to be Claire Huxtable and do that? Or is it because that's what I saw? Because I also saw success with women who were child free and who were amazing in my community. That was a process, but that was all of my mid-30s. So it was living single and girlfriends. Watching both of those shows, like having something else to look at, that also was kind of helping me process. I'm like, okay, it's not just me, because Joan, she out here struggling too. So that was helpful, but it didn't like lessen the stress of it. And I look at like some of the girls I mentor now, they are where I was at 35, in complete panic mode, like completely stressed out, because they want the marriage and then the carriage. And now, because they are aware of options and I have been so loud about it, it might be the carriage and it may not be a marriage. You may not get to be a marriage. So I always frame it, if marriage is important to you, God bless you. I think marriage is beautiful. If you want a child, you're going to need to have a conversation with yourself. Do you want a child whether or not you're doing it by yourself? Or can you create your village so that even if you're not married, you're not doing it by yourself, so that you live within 10 miles of your mom and them who can come and help you with these children you think you want to have? So that's kind of how I processed it. And that's kind of how I try to pay it forward, because I think this entire experience has made me just more compassionate. So instead of saying, well, I I would say things, I would not soften them or say it kindly, even though it's the fact. So now I'm more compassionate, having like lived through the experience. So when I am talking to the girls I mentor, or just some of my sorors who are younger, I try to soften it because I understand how sensitive and delicate it is, because my mid-30s were a train wreck, emotionally. So when I'm talking to them, I speak through a lens of compassion. These are the things you want. It does not change the reality that your clock is ticking. It does not change the reality that you need to call your job and see if your insurance is going to cover egg freezing or IVF, if that's the route you go. None of these facts change, but I also understand that you are panicked. Your cortisol is up. Your weight gain is going up because you're stressed out. Probably should go to a gym and just try to maybe find a therapist and pull your life together. So I understand the emotional part of it, and I just say it with like a little more kindness. But the facts don't change. And so I'm very clear to tell them the things that at 35, that would have been so helpful for me when I was like, all like, oh my God, I have to get married, and oh my goodness, and all the things, and just panic every day and anxious every day. That would have been so helpful to have somebody who could have had this conversation with like kindness and facts.
Well, and I think too, the other problem is that society makes it so that, again, like how we even talked about right from the beginning about how society makes it that, as a woman, you are supposed to be a mother. And then family, where family is asking you every time, like you said, you're in Christmas and, when are you having a kid? When are you going into a relationship? Who are you dating? What's going to happen? All of the noise that culture and family sets as expectations on how life is supposed to be for you. And as you progress through this generation and so on and so forth, and how it's supposed to look.
Mm-hmm.
And you have all of these outside voices that are showing up and telling you how it's supposed to look for you. So, of course, someone in their 30s is going to have that anxiousness of, oh my God, there's this pressure that I have to hurry up quickly. And now, even as in the space where everybody is talking about egg freezing and making sure that you freeze your eggs just in case you don't know if you're going to have child, or you don't know if you're going to need it down the line or whatever. So, you should consider egg freezing, but we don't also have the conversation that egg freezing is not necessarily an option for a lot of people, because it's also still very expensive in a process that you have to go through. It is not something that is just as simple like, well, just go freeze your eggs, and it shouldn't really be a big deal. That way, if you decide, down the line that you want to have a child, that it's not going to be an issue. Well, yes, it is, because egg freezing it's not a simple snap your fingers and you can go and freeze your eggs. I mean, all of those factors have a bearing on a decision that is life altering.
Correct. 100%.
When you decided and said, okay, you know what? I'm good with this. I'm totally okay with being child free. Like, how did it shift your relationship with you?
And I know this sounds like super dramatic or whatever, but because remember the first time when I was 34, at like mid 30s, I just traveled and came back and was like, this is the decision. And there was no emotional part of it really, because it was just a decision that had to be made. I made the decision. But in 2022, when I circled back around and really went through all of my reasons, like the literal logistics of it all, and then the emotional side of it as well, it was like this relief, because it had been from 2020 to 2022. So 2 years of kind of in the back of my mind, I'm just ruminating like, am I going to do this? What are the pros? What are the cons? When I decided like for real, I'm okay with it, and I looked at the emotional part, I opened every door, every closet of my mind and my emotions and my spirit, just to make sure that I am completely in tune with this decision. It was this quiet relief, like this weight just kind of like, I didn't think about it anymore. I haven't had to think about it anymore. And I think it's made me more honest when I'm talking and dealing with people, especially if they're in the middle of trying to figure things out, because I've answered all of my questions. And sometimes, even if you're in conversation with people, if you haven't answered your own questions that's haunting you in the back of your mind, your lens is not clear. Your lens is not clear. You can, like, I can give all the advice in the world, but if I haven't actually had to go and deal with it myself, that's like Googling advice, or the best advice that I have at the time, but that doesn't mean it's the best advice. It's the best advice I have at that time. So after I went through all of my own cobwebs, I have a different clarity about it. You can ask me this question and I can answer it in 1,000 languages because it's not going to change. And when I went back to the core of who I was, I knew at 34 when I decided, and I knew at 24 when I decided, and I knew at 18 when I decided I did not want to be a single mother. I knew it then. I knew it at every iteration of myself. I've always known that, and that didn't change. And if life had been different and I was married at 25, I would have children. But that is not how things panned out for me. At my core, who I was in high school, that who made the decisions that I made to make it to college, who made the decisions I made to make it into adulthood. Now, I'm 50 years old now, by the way, but who made these decisions at 50, I am still the 18-year-old version of myself at the core in the decision that I don't want to be a single mom. So none of that changed. At 60, I will still not want to be a single mom.
Right.
And I can just look back on the blessings of all the young people who have come in and throughout my life. You know, nobody owed me that. That was a blessing.
So, did you make the decision? Obviously, you don't want to be a single mom, as well as made the decision that I want to be child free and I don't want to have the responsibility of also being a mom.
Let's talk about it. So, Eloise, I was on a dating profile, one of the dating sites, paired with this man. He seems wonderful. And in my dating profile, I went back on, like, every couple of years, I dip my toe in the water and see what's happening in the dating world, like the online dating world. So for the first time, I included, I'm okay if they have children, but the children have to be old enough to like feed themselves and take themselves to the bathroom and that sort of thing. That's why I say I'm ever evolving. But I think we have to be honest with ourselves. So with this particular match, we needed to wait for a 3-week break in the summer because he had sole custody of his children who could take care, like preteens, could take care of themselves. The fact that all of the scheduling had to center around children, I decided that that probably wasn't what I needed. I need to take that age up to college. That was eye-opening for me because I have children in my life. I have a schedule. So my god kids have different mothers. One, my goddaughter, she's danced forever and is now in college. Her entire life, she's danced. Her entire life, I don't miss anything. My godsons, they're in all the sports. They're boys. They're in every sport you can do. They play it. One of them decided to be a filmmaker. He's 8th grade. He decided to be a filmmaker. They have films. I go to everything. So I'm accustomed to other people sending me a calendar, and I will go and pick out my availability to make sure that I don't miss their stuff. That's not the same as having the responsibility of a child every day who has a schedule. And like, I think I'm awesome for not missing my god kid stuff. Also, I don't pretend that that's parenthood. That's not the day-to-day parenthood. At this stage of my life, that's not something I'm interested in because it's not a schedule coming in like, okay, we can go to these things or show up at these things. It was, we can't do anything. We can't do things because it's school nights. No movies. No, you can't do things until there's like a break in the schedule when the other parents. And then the other part of that is I wouldn't date a deadbeat dad. So I'm over here applauding like, this is amazing. I am so glad you're a full-time parent. That's beautiful. Kids need their dads in their lives. Like all of those things. And also, no. No. That's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
That like helped me pay attention to the ages now, which I never did before. I'm like, oh, if you got a kid, that's fine, whatever. No, because I never walked into a situation where the father was the custodial parent. So every other time I've dated men with kids, but it's been like either shared custody or the mother has custody. So you're working around schedules, but it's weekends. Like you're not really working around schedules that much. So this was different. And this helped me realize something new about myself. That they're going to need to be a little bit older. If I was in my 30s, like if I was mid-30s, I wouldn't care. But I'm not. I'm 50 years old. So it's just something new to learn about myself. If we are dating, it would be great if your kids are adults or like in high school or something where it doesn't matter as much that they like every single day has to be tailored to your kids. So that was also interesting because I sat there like, well, girl, does this mean you're selfish? And that's a very real question. So now I'm back to like the people fighting in the comments on Instagram where they're like, oh no, you just don't want kids because you're selfish and you're going to be like put away in a home or whatever. You know, some people might look at it as being selfish. I look at it as like, I know myself.
Right.
And I know that to take 8 months of minimal being able to do anything because you're mindful of your children. And I also understand not inviting new people in to meet your children. I don't want to meet children if it's early anyway. I don't think that's healthy. My mom did a good job with that. Like, I'm sure she had a boyfriend. When I went to college, she did have a boyfriend. But we didn't see if she was like dating people to get to the stage of boyfriends. I didn't see that because she didn't bring me home and we didn't meet them, obviously, because I was in college by then. You know, maybe it's selfish, but also I know myself. And I know that at this stage of 50 years old, I'm not interested in toddler stuff. I'll pop in if I need to with the ones who are in my life. Like I have a nephew, he's 5 years old. If it's something that I need to show up, I have little nieces, they're like 7 to 8, and they're the cute stage. I will show up. We've had a swimming pool day this summer, that kind of thing. But the everyday of it, I'm not built for that right now in my life. 10, 15 years ago, different story, different version
Right.
of me. But this version of me is like moving into retirement.
And believe it or not, there are actually a lot of people who are starting to have those conversations with themselves about being child free, choosing to be child free. And even if they had a partner, it is couples that are choosing, even though I'm in a relationship, even though I'm not going to be a single parent, I still want to be child free. I do not want to have children. And a lot of people are more than even what I would say 20 years ago are starting to consider that. And it's not just because I want to be single or I don't, or because of their schedule. It's expensive. This world as we know it is just evolving. And, right now there's all the crazy things that are happening. Sometimes it's just like you do have to wonder, what is the world going to be like for your children 20 years from now, 50 years from now? I'm 52. And when we were young, our parents used to say, oh, we don't know how the world's going to be with you guys and how you guys are. But it's just like, wow, if they just saw what we would have to endure with our children and, with our grandchildren, it's just like, well, I mean, I don't know. So there's so many different factors now. It's not just about somebody being selfish. There's a lot more. So I'm curious what you think might be the biggest misconception about women being child free that people don't even think about.
There are probably lots of things. Well, I'll say two of them. One, and this one bothers me sometimes. People assume that you don't have kids because you don't want to and not because you can't. I have friends who couldn't have kids. So when society is looking at them or being bold because, folk say whatever they have to say these days, all this bravery behind a laptop. But when
Mm,
people may say things, I'm offended by that because the assumption is that everybody can physically produce and all of the stars aligned and it happening, everybody can have kids. Some of these women are selfish. Some of them are heartbroken because they had 5 miscarriages. That's the first part. The second thing I would
mm,
say that is a misconception, it happens in the workplace, but also with friendships. People assume we have extra time. There are 24 hours in a day. Most of my friends, especially those of us who don't have children, we are very involved in our civic activities to make the world go round. If we have more time, it's either going to be spent on career, picking up the pieces of our family, because especially in Black families, especially in our culture, we are the aunties. If you have to send your kids somewhere, you're going to send them to this auntie. So we're picking that up, picking the pieces up for that, picking up whatever is dropping on our jobs. And then in the community and at our churches, we are the ones making sure your kid has vacation Bible school. Who do you think
mm.
is bringing the snacks for them? Who do you think is teaching the classes for them? I'm the board chair of a nonprofit that focuses on Black women in film and entertainment. Who has the time to make sure that y'all can get jobs because the job market is crappy. But who is taking hours? This is non-paid, taking hours to hunt down studios like, hey, do you have jobs? I have interns. Do you have internships? I got students we need to send. Like, the assumption that we have all of this extra time for leisure and to do, whatever you may need for us to do is wild, because 9 times out of 10, if you look, or at least in my circle of friends, we keep the world running because with that little bit of time, it's, although it may not be like on the clock getting a paycheck, we're investing that time so that our communities are better, so that our churches are better, so that our families are better. We don't just have extra random time to run errands, we're not just watching Netflix and chilling. Now, granted, we might be taking some vacations because, Black girls travel. But in general, just the assumption that we have all of this extra time or all of this extra money, that's crazy. And children are expensive. So this is a conversation we should probably have in our community. So if you have 3 kids and I have 10 god kids, and you do for your 3 kids every day, and I go above and beyond for my 10 god kids every day, am I spending less money than you? Probably not. You would have had to live in your house anyway, so you're paying the mortgage. But all the other things you're doing, you have 3, and not to take away, I know parenthood is very hard. I wouldn't sign up for it alone, as I've mentioned. But just this assumption that if someone doesn't have children, there's all of this extra time and there's all of this extra money. No, it's not. Because if we're in community, we're helping y'all. And we're helping more than just one person most times. And like, this is historically, I can look at my Aunt Linda. Aunt Linda has helped everyone in our family do everything. Like, if you got to go to college, and Linda's going to help you with your tuition. And that's every one of my cousins. If you need something, she is going to fix it. If you get in trouble, she is going to help you. If you need a loan for a car or something, her interest rates are way better than the bank. Not to say that she's a retired educator, so I don't want to act like she got $1 trillion.
Right.
But this is what this woman and many women in my life, this is who they've been to our families. This is who they've been to our communities, to our churches, to our organizations. So no, we don't have an extra 24 hours. We got the same 24 hours in a day. And we don't have an extra $1 million. We're just allocating it to several people or organizations or our church to make sure that our communities stay afloat.
Do you have a lot of people similar to that made the same choice of being child free in your community? Like, do you tend to gravitate towards others who have also decided to be child free?
I think it's just a numbers game. And this was something that I noticed during COVID. So some of my friends, like my friends who had families, they didn't really think about pods because their household was the pod. But like your people you gathered with during COVID. Because remember, you couldn't really go out, you couldn't go anywhere. After like the first 60 days, several of us had human contact. Let that sink in. And so we made a pod. And then some of our friends with kids, married with kids, they joined the pod. But we were like, oh, everybody else has human touch. Like we were on Zooms, but we hadn't like seen people in real life. No. Because we were quarantined for all those months. So we made a pod. And that's when I noticed I have a lot of friends without kids, and some are childless, some are child free. But we also have friends who have kids. They will pop in for like adult night. Now, a couple of them will bring their girls. The girls are teenagers. But that was their like adult time, and they could come with us. So I don't know that it's specific. I think it's just a numbers game. I went to all women's college. I live in Atlanta. My circles are heavily female. It's probably 60% without kids, 40% with kids. And now that number might be higher because I don't want to say without kids. A lot of my friends, their kids are grown. Yeah. So now they're back hanging out. They have some flexibility. They went through the younger motherhood stage. Now they're back.
Yeah. What about the conversation about legacy? And people talk about, well, your children are your legacy, and what is your legacy going to be? What does that word mean to you now?
I'm reframing it. I'm thinking about it, and I'll tell you why. 2 reasons. 1, Dr. Miles Monroe, he was this great preacher and philosopher. He said, when I die, I don't want my name on a building. I want the fruit that like the seeds I've planted to grow as fruit in people. That should be the takeaway. That was always not strange, but just interesting to me. The things I do should grow in people instead of a building that's a monument. The people are the monument because it gets passed on and passed on. So that's one thought. And then more recently, Fawn Weaver, she owns Uncle
Yep.
Nearest. She's my new Sarah. Fawn, someone asked her about legacy about a month ago, and she said, I do not care about a legacy. Whatever happens when I'm gone, y'all deal with it. I care about like making this world better today, and whatever y'all do with it, that's what you do with it. And I
Mm.
thought, how interesting, because she started Uncle Nearest. It's $1 billion company now. And for her to do all this work and not care at all about it, she cares about just making this life, making this place better. And whatever happens when she's gone, y'all deal with it. I have been rethinking it because, I lean into what I do. I think, or at least I try to do, is give enough that the next generation has nuggets to give to the next and give to the next and give to the
Yep.
next. I know I have a film, so that's etched in stone and it'll always be here. I'm rethinking it. I really am rethinking it. So this is a new concept for me, the Fawn Weaver method of legacy, of not caring one way or the other, let everybody else deal with it. And I'm thinking about that. I really am thinking about it.
So if someone's listening right now and they're in that same uncertain space, what would you want to say to them?
Relax. Relax. You have to relax. Get somewhere where you can think, because when you're all like just as a ball of string, like a ball of yarn, it takes a minute to unravel yourself to get to a place where you can think clearly, because you need to figure out what is it that you want. And why do you want it? Do you want it because your family wants you to have it and told you this from the time you were born? Do you want it because that's what television says? Do you want it because the influencers now have trad wives and you think it's cute when they whisper and make food? Oh, it's a thing, the trad wives. So they make food, but it's in a whisper tone. It's a whole lifestyle. Google it. Is that why you want this? Or do you genuinely want it? It's something you were born like. Calais Stewart knew. She always knew she wanted to be a mom. She always knew it. Bad relationships, she still knew she wanted to be a mom. She wanted to be a mom, and now she's on the journey to being a mom. Some people know that, but if you don't talk to yourself, you don't know, like, what is your reasoning? Is it worth those sacrifices? That sacrifice meant like putting a whole IVF cycle, all of it, egg freezing, all those things. Not the IVF cycle, but the egg freezing, putting it on a credit card and having to pay it off. There are some sacrifices that may come with this want that you have. So figure out, is it you who wants it, or is it external noise that's telling you want it? And if this is something you want, go for it. Lean in. Time is not waiting for anybody. When you're like all raveled, like everything is raveled and your chest is tight and you're having anxiety about, oh my God, my children, and am I having them? You cannot think clearly. So that's why I say, try to relax first. Get someplace where you can think. And once you have made your decision that, yes, I want to be a mom, move. You can wait. And yes, we pray. I'm a woman of faith. And also, faith without works is dead. So you have to do something. And sometimes it's easier to not know. I have friends who won't go get their AMH because they don't want to know. Like, they desperately want kids but won't go get an AMH. And I've said it with love and sometimes without, but I have been working on myself. So mostly with love. You
Mm-hmm.
need to go get these tests, because
Mm-hmm.
you playing, and like, you may be the
Time's not
person at
waiting.
60. Time is not waiting. You may look back at 60 like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have known. Like, even in the beginning when I started doing the documentary, that as you remember, what kickstarted me was not knowing that I needed an AMH to figure out if I had any juice inside. Do I have any eggs outside of fibroids? Is this a possibility for me? And when I got my AMH and it was low and they were like, move fast, I was so mad, because somebody could have told me that 10 years prior, when I was stressed out in my mid-30s. If anybody would have said, oh, you should keep your eye on this, maybe I would have changed my mind. Maybe I would have had a different, or at least taken some of my dating more seriously. I'll say that part. I wouldn't have changed my mind on being a single parent, but I might have dated differently. Instead of being like anxiously dating, maybe I would have dated differently. I don't know. And I will never know because I didn't have that information. To the person that's like on the fence and trying to figure out your feelings, I would say 100%. Whatever you decide after you calm your spirit and, say your prayers about it and figure out, is this outside? Is this external? Or do I really want to be a mom? If that answer is I really want to be a mom, do something about it. You have to do something about it. Pray and go to your doctor. Pray and get your AMH and FSH. Like, it's a prayer and it's works. So that is what I would say. And do it with urgency. Use that anxiety, like that anxious energy, to kind of propel you forward to make those moves if it's something that you want to do. And if it's something that you don't want to do, girl, take a trip, enjoy your life, live your best life, and the chips will fall where they may with your family and whoever else might have these expectations of what your life should look like. It is your life. So live your best life, but you won't know until you're honest with yourself which direction you should be going in.
Mm-hmm. Well, Miss Chiquita, I appreciate you so much in coming on to this podcast
you're
again.
so you're always so much fun. I'll jump on anytime.
Well, thank you. So, for the Eggs Over Easy documentary, it's been in a lot of places and all of the things, but do you want to share a little bit about where we can still watch it?
Nowhere.
Oh,
no.
no.
No, yes. We had a 3-year contract with OWN, Oprah Winfrey Network, and that ended this year, the top of 2025. Yes. So it's been interesting in the reproductive space with the new administration because I have more reproductive projects that are in the wings just waiting for green lights. And the networks have not been interested. A lot of the networks are going through some dynamic changes right now. And they have not shown interest in reproductive health, which is so odd to me, but I understand it because of the administration we're currently under in this nation, the ebbs and flows. So that's where we are. You can't watch it anywhere. We're working on it, but that's up to networks, really.
Sorry, and it just brings me another question that just popped into my head. So, you've decided to be child free, but you've made one of your life missions to educate people about reproductive health and reproductive care. How did that work?
So first, it was fueled by the anger of not knowing. Remember when I said I plan out all the things? I didn't know to plan anything for my reproductive health. So my mom had breast cancer early. She's alive and well, but she had breast cancer before she was 50. So I'm always doing my mammograms and I'm always doing my pap smears. And I've been that way since I was like 26 or 7. Never missed. So at all these years, when I was going to doctors, and I had different doctors over the years, but nobody mentioned to me, like, do you think you may want to have a child ever? If so, you might need to keep an eye on your AMH and FSH. Nobody ever mentioned that. So when it was mentioned to me, I hit the roof and I was so mad because when I took that test and my numbers they weren't too low to do IVF, but they were low. They weren't low 10 years ago. They weren't low 15 years ago. And I was so mad that I set out to say, okay, I'm going to do this short. It was going to be 15 minutes. I'll pay for it myself because you're looking at $1,000 a minute on like a low budget doc. Just so that the girls behind me, for these young women I mentor, to not be here in 10 years, to not be in this seat where I am in 10 years trying to figure it out and not knowing anything. So that was kind of how I turned my rage into something positive. And then once I started doing the research, I just realized like we really don't know anything. We don't know anything. Of course, TV has caught up a little bit with it at this point, but back then, Being Mary Jane had the one episode where Gabrielle Union froze her eggs. Other than that, nobody was talking about it. So that's kind of how I ended up in the space. And then I just am passionate about it because it still irks my soul that it's not talked about enough. So the rage has simmered, thankfully, but I still feel a ways that is like we're just discarded as Black women. Like this is not an important topic. That even today, networks can love us, put up, a documentary on a singer or a musician or an athlete, but things that are like life and death for us, they do not care. And that bothers me. And so I will continue to be an advocate. Whatever platform I have, I will speak on it until I can't speak anymore.
Well, thank you for doing that, ma'am.
And thank you for sharing your platform with me.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. Thanks so much for listening to Fertility Cafe. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an interview, leave us a review, and connect with us on socials. We're at Fertility Cafe. You can also watch the full video version of today's conversation over on our YouTube channel. Until next time, remember, love has no limits, neither should parenthood.